Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Silent Sequester podcast. I am your host, Isaiah Goins, sitting here with my co-host, Chanel and Jacob.
Hi,
Jacob,
everyone. I'm excited
how
to
are
be
you
here.
doing?
I'm doing great. I'm about to say Survivor's over. Sequester's over. Survivor's over. Survivor hasn't started, but Sequester's over, and it's just like a dope to like look at the season in full, and especially like I know other people have been doing interviews and things like that, and so like I like made it to the end, and so like talking about everything in its entirety, and so I'm like especially looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I guess this whole platform, what we're going to basically do is just like talk about your mindset and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
we're very excited to have you here.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
So I guess, well, first of all, now that you're out, you're done,
Mhm.
you're seeing all this for the first time, seeing everyone's confessional. Let's hear, like, how do you feel?
Nothing really surprised. Well, nothing like I was in one. They're like, who like confessionals like pissed you off the most? I was like, not really. No one kind of like shitted on me or dogged me out in their confessional. So I was like, I'm good. I really didn't like shit on anyone or like do that in my confessionals. But people's gameplays really surprised me. Seeing it from like a bird's eye view, from episode 1 all the way to episode 10, and specifically Josh and Billy's gameplay, like. I was like, what the hell? Like in the house, I mean, I played such a messy game that like I was so deep into my shit that I only saw like my game and then the people that I was working with's game. But seeing like Josh, who I really never had a rapport with, and seeing like Billy's game, I was like, oh damn. Like they've been like moving some shit out here, moving bricks. And so that was the most interesting thing to look back and watch. And all like the dramatic moments. I was like, I like remember at certain moments, I was like, do I want to watch this episode? No, but it was all fun.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously you got fifth. Like if you were in that final four, what was going to be your play? Like who did you want to take? Who did you want to drag if you were eliminated? Like what was your mindset with all that as well?
So if I was in the final four, the biggest target in the final four was Billy. And what I saw her as the biggest threat is because her reputation with the jury. Because at that time in the game, I didn't really see Billy's game. I saw more of Natalie's game, and I did not see Josh's game at all. And so if I would have made it to the final four and I would have got dragged to the final four, I would have dragged Josh with me because I didn't have a relationship with him. I didn't really see his game. And my idea of going into final four, I was like, okay, Billy is like the obvious vote off here. Me and Natalie, we're locked in. I was not going to vote out Josh because Josh would drag me 1,000%. I'm trying not to say 1,000% so much. So many goddamn times. Yeah. Literally. But I knew Josh was going to drag me like immediately if I would have voted him out. And I didn't think Billy would have dragged me necessarily because it was a moment that wasn't shown. It was like final five. I was trying to get her vote. And we had like a little moment. She was like, yo, Jacob, like this isn't even for me. This is for my brother. And I know like how much y'all love each other and stuff like that. And so I was like, we have that going. So I don't think that she would immediately yeet me out of that game right then. Yeah. And I also, if I was in final four and Natalie had a person in final four, I don't think final four would have went that way would have went down the way it did. Because I think, not saying I could have like convinced Natalie, but I think having me as a person that she felt secure with, even if she did start to I feel you, Billy. I feel you. I feel like, Natalie, please look me in the eyes right now. I need you to do this. I need you to. And so I feel like she would have like went with her initial gut. And even if she did take a couple steps back, I feel like I still could have like brought her back to it. And so, yeah.
And speaking of Natalie, I mean, she's watching as well. So.
Literally, Natalie, I was just talking about you for so long.
Actually, I have a question.
Go for it.
So you were talking about in the game that you thought your game was like kind of messy while you were playing in the house. Yeah. Would you say that your game in the live version was just like completely different than compared to the mini version?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. It was a complete like 180. Yeah. Because I don't know if y'all have like seen my like mini games, but Winners at War. So I won my first one, which I was very proud to win. I feel like it was an easier cast to maneuver things around, but I feel like the strategic aspect, just like different game levels I hit. And when I went into Winners at War, and then I got into like this argument, and then it like took me emotionally out, where I felt as though I stopped playing. And I've always had that thing with me. I never felt as though I truly deserved to get that second win. If y'all remember, like episode 3, when Muna like called me out and Spencer, and then I was like, my second win wasn't shit, and I genuinely believe that. And I've been carrying that for so long. And people are like, Jacob, you're the first 2-time winner, but I'm like, I don't think I deserve that, because I look back on that game. I'm like, I didn't really do the things that I went into the game thinking I was going to do to get the crown. It was more built on game, relationships and that aspect. And so I feel like getting outside of that, I wanted to like, I really want to play aggressive, play crazy, and have fun. And I wanted to showcase more of my personality in this game, because like I've always just done enough to win. And so I feel like in the live version, you saw me probably play a lot more crazier, unhinged, cutthroat, and just like, and I feel like I had like sweet, tender moments. So like when I was like, me and my relationship with Natalie was something that like, it was like just so sweet, especially towards the end. You really got to see that play in round 5. I mean, the final 5. But yeah, it's completely different than the way I played minis. And I've always played like loyal and calm and cool and collected, but this, I was like a bat out of hell. So.
Cool.
Real quick, I'm gonna let one of the other co-hosts in, Dylan. He just showed up a little bit late.
Hi.
But okay, so another question was, when we saw you in the game, like obviously you're a very self-interested like mindset player when it comes to like strategy. Obviously,
very selfish.
That's fine.
I play very selfish. Yeah.
When it came to your allies, right? I guess for us, the highlights were at different points. It was either Muna, Spencer, or Natalie. Do you like in your mind? Like, do you think was there anyone who you really gravitated towards? Because there would be points where like maybe it's Natalie. There would be like you can throw her name under because like she's never going to drag me, or like maybe it could be Spencer at times. Like, who were your out like quote unquote like real diehard allies, if there were any?
I mean, at the beginning of the game, I mean, y'all saw in the first episode when I like first had that conversation with Muna, and then the next scene it was me and Marcelo, and it was immediately that flip. And so Marcelo was honestly my number 1 ally until I dragged him into the battle match at that round. And I say true ally, where like I was willing to like go to bat for him, and I was like willing to protect him as much as I can. Going into like the later part of the season, Natalie was that, and Spencer was that. It was like Natalie and then Spencer, because I just felt like me and Spencer had a good relationship in the game and had a good rapport, and we weren't like forced to work together, but his game started to come up when my game started to go to shit. And when we got voted in together, it was kind of a good matchup. We're like, okay, like we're voted in together. Let's like at least try to do something with this. And so that was the start of me and his relationship. But once Marcelo left, and once I eliminated Marcelo, Natalie was like my number 1.
Sorry, I have a follow-up question for this one. So you were mentioning like your 3 allies, which are like kind of Muna and Natalie, and our Muna was in there, but like your main one was Spencer and Marcelo and Natalie. So out of all of those, how come Muna, you didn't stay so close with Muna? Because it seemed like you guys were like really close at the beginning. What made you kind of turn on that relationship or that there?
So it was so once the premiere episode and once I first saw Muna, I think a lot of people are like, of course I got a lot of messages about me turning on Muna. And people were like, well, why did you like fake it the first time you saw her in the beginning episodes? Like, this is the first time I'm seeing a person that I had a relationship with online. And it's like, I'm not thinking in my mind, I can't, like at that moment, I can't wait to backstab you. I can't wait to slit you. It was like, yo, like, what's up? I like love you. You know what I mean? It was that type of like demeanor that I came to her with. But I've always just been threatened of Muna in these games. I think Muna's a bomb-ass competitor, socially, strategically, in every aspect. And so it was the round where Natalie it was the second round. Natalie got eliminated. And I didn't have a problem with Natalie getting eliminated at that time. But I always heard that when Jay West was throwing out me and Muna's name, Natalie was one of the ones he was kind of going. Natalie and him were kind of pushing that agenda. And so when Natalie left and then she came back, I remember talking to her and I was like, I immediately wanted to go to her when she came back because I thought she still had the me and Muna as being the top target. So I came to her and I was like, hey, like, I'm not dumb enough to sit next to Muna in the end. And she was like, okay, Jacob, please use me to like get that and like make that happen. And so I think that's where the switch was, where I was like, and at that time at that time, I saw Natalie as having no social capital, like in the game, and she couldn't really like, she could play, but like she didn't have an avenue because no one kind of gave her that anything to like make a move. So she kind of like was like, okay, what can I actually do? I need allies, and so it was like at that moment I was like, I know I can't sit next to Muna in the end, and so why not? Like I always view Muna as like, I know I can't beat you. And that turned into like, okay, I'm targeting you. And so I've always like, I had that mindset in, and it started to come into play like the third round or so.
Okay. So I will say, I think strategy wise, so I do think Muna, if you take her to then like that big mistake, because she wins, obviously. Yeah. I do think, and I'm curious to see what you feel about this. Do you think it was one round too early, or do you think like maybe if you waited one more and then you could have struck, or what do you think?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot too. It's like, Jacob, did you ever think about having a shield? And I guess the perception of my game is not very high. And so I was like, oh, I don't think I'm a target in no one's eyes. That's just the way I perceive myself in other people's eyes. I was like, oh, okay, I'm Jacob. I'm cool, calm, and collected. Like, I'm just a chill guy. People like being around me. I'm good. And now thinking back on it, like having another target, because after I targeted Muna date night round, I went into every battle match after that. And I think hindsight's 2020, but I think if I would have like let her in like another round, like after that, it would have been like I would have probably been in better shapes. But I wasn't viewing like in the time I wasn't like, oh, I have a shield in front of me. I was like, let me build shit on my resume, so if I make it to the end, I can just talk my shit. And that's just what I was focused on. I wasn't focused on, hey, these people are going to jury, and the emotional response that would have had once I made specific moves that I did in the game. And so some could say it was like a round too early. And I oftentimes feel like date night, it's such an intricate round because you can only talk to one person at a time. And I never wanted to like, and I thought I came up with this flawless plan of, okay, I hear it's both of our names going out there. I was like, okay, if I'm telling this to everyone, then I can like point out like, hey, you know, I wasn't like alone in this. And in a typical round, Muna like has like just the access to talk to anyone at any particular time, pull like two people in a room and like have that leverage. And so minds could shift. But I felt like I had like just the one-on-ones connection in the boats that I needed at that time. And I was like, she can only talk to, and I trusted the people at Marcelo and Natalie. And I was like, she can only talk to one person at a time. And if I can, you know, since the conversations are so condensed, it's not as much room as she can have to get out of or know about the idea of her leaving. And so be down if you do, down if you don't kind of way.
I gotcha. Dylan, did you want to ask any questions since you just came in?
Yeah.
Before I continue.
So you came in as like one of the bigger names in the mini community because you were a two-time winner in it. When you saw who was in the cast, were you thinking in your head, okay, I kind of want to keep the other big names in the game just because you guys had that reputation coming in, or were you kind of wanting to work with like the lesser known players?
No, I did not want to work with the lesser known players. It's just not something that like I automatically was like, oh, you know, this would be a good idea. Yeah. And so once me and Muna and then Katie and Brent, I mean, people can like claim they're like, you know, a big player like in the game, but they'll shade. But
no, I love hockey. I'm all about that.
But and so I initially was like, I wasn't thinking if I wanted to work with him or not. I was just thinking about my game and things that I needed to do to make it there. And so I knew I had to pick up allies on the way, and I had to drop off allies as I go as well. The timing was just like a thing that I was just, what times to do this and that. But so I wasn't really like, oh, I need to work with the big allies. I was just like, as the game goes, the game will flow, and it will flow differently. And just having that fluidity, I guess, just to maneuver however I could see best.
Yeah.
And so it was not concrete either way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel you.
Yeah.
So moving on, just to see what your experience was with jury before we even asked about the vote or anything. So how was your jury experience after you got out?
I was scared shitless when I was about to walk into jury, because I knew it was some shit that I did. I was like, I have to answer up to it, you know? And so coming into jury, I just got done with like all my confessionals, and I walk in, and they filmed this. So I'm surprised they didn't show it, but like Brent, I gave some people like hugs, some people stood up and gave me hugs. And then Brent was like raving about like how cutthroat and savage I was in the game. And then it was like multiple people that like had very bitter feelings towards me in the game. And so it was tense, very tense. And I tried to go up to people and say like, hey, like, do you want to have a conversation? And even some people were mad that I didn't know were mad. And I was like, okay, hey, you want to talk about these things? And some were ready, some weren't. But it was very tense, very, very tense. And yeah, it was very tense.
Are you good with everyone now after the show?
I think no, basically, but I think the relationships are at a place that they probably need to be with things that happen in the game. And I definitely know that trust was lost. I'll just be like, specific, me and Moon, I know I definitely broke trust, and just like hurt her feelings emotionally in the game. Even with Marcel, like that was a conversation that he was pissed when I came back in, and he was pissed. And so I'm not good with everyone, but the people that I left good with in the game, I'm still good with now. But yeah, I just, with Moon, I know like I definitely broke her trust and did things in the game. With Marcelo was kind of the same feat, but me and Marcelo talked about the situation numerous times, and got to a good point in the house, and we continued to have conversations after the fact, because you see things, it's like you can move on from it while you're like in the game, but then watching it back, like feelings grow and you can relive certain things, and you're like, all right, let me circle back around to this and offer another apology up, and so
you see a confessional or two, you're like, I don't like that, and then it
and then I say something shady, and I'm like, okay, let me call him, hey, are we good? And I'm like, I'll get an answer, I'm like, all right, I guess we're not, but no, I and so it was, it's a very dynamic, but I'm good with like mostly everyone.
Did you see when you so with the whole like Muna eviction and everything, did you have a feeling that pulling that move would cause like such a a huge reaction from her and kind of everyone else who
mean, when I can tell you, when I went into that elimination ceremony, my heart was like beating out of my chest, and people were like, Jacob, why did you speak up and say that like you had to do it? I was like, bitch, because I was nervous. I was like, it was like a guilty conscience of like, oh my goodness, like I just did this thing to a person I care about. And so I definitely, at first I thought I could get away with it by the plan that I thought, but it backfired. But I definitely knew that the reaction that I was going to get, and people were like, oh, you're so heartless. But I was like, people oftentimes say like, you should have put Billy in. And I was like, I like that. I mean, I'm a very logical person. So thinking strictly game, it probably was a great like game move to do. And I was like, should I do this? But emotionally, I couldn't. I already had the knife in, and I could not bring myself to twist it, throw it down, stomp on it, spit on it, and do all like the extra. And so like I already didn't trust Brendan, so it was an easy pull to put him in. But yeah, I knew that the reaction that I got after that was going to be the reaction in the game. And I think that's I don't know if y'all could tell, like afterwards, I was a little bit like more docile going into like the rounds, because that's emotionally draining. Like I don't go around my normal day life backstabbing or, get into all these arguments with people. And it was just like emotionally draining. And so, yeah,
So you're kind of like caught up with it. Yeah, you could tell you're kind of caught up in the moment and made that move or whatever. And yeah, no, you could see that that you felt bad.
Yeah, I was like, I don't backstab people in my life, so I'm like, damn. It was hard to do, hard to watch back, and just like in the moment, it was like when I got caught up and we were like arguing, and me and Billy were arguing. I was like, shit, what did I do? You know, and then Natalie was crying, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so horrible. And so it was a lot, but I kind of brought it out on myself. And so, you know.
So looking back, would you do that again?
Would I do that again? Yeah, I think I would do it again. Okay. I wouldn't use my power to put Billy in, just because I think that would be too much. But I think the plan that I had, if it would have went perfectly, it was going to be like a good plan, but it didn't, and it backfired in my face. But it's hard for me to say like would I take it back, because I can't imagine doing that round differently. And so even though it was a complete combustion emotionally and everything in my face, when I, made that plan and voted in Muna, I don't see me. I would do that part again. Yeah.
Okay. So.
And I would be emotionally distressed again. But, yeah. Yeah.
So another question, your jury vote, right? So what was the leading factor for you that led you to vote Spencer instead of Billy?
Yeah. Honestly, it came down because out of both of their jury answers, I didn't really get what I was like necessarily looking for. And so for me, I went back to, I didn't see Billy's game while I was in the game. And I kind of hinted at that at the beginning when I was so like deep in my shit, where I just saw my game and the people that was kind of working with me. Me and Billy oftentimes had like a love and like a respect for each other, but it was not like a working, like we're making plans and different things like that. Me and Spencer had that. And so them two up there, I was like, I spent more time with Spencer. I, in a sense, can understand his game more than I can Billy's. And that's like, yeah. And that's kind of what it was. I just didn't see Billy's game as I saw Spencer's game because I was working with Spencer kind of the way through. And so that's kind of what it relied on when I kind of was like, I didn't really get the answer that I was necessarily looking for. And so I just have to put it on this one. And so.
Okay. So I mean, we're almost at the timer, so I'm just gonna ask a few more. So another question. So were there any twists or were there any like moments in the game that you were just like I don't know if it should have been there? Like I know for at least the viewership, a lot of people were very anti the jury questioning phase, for example. At that round. So like what's
I mean, I went into that round thinking like I'm fucked because I just backstabbed Muna. The jury loves Muna and Billy. So I'm like, I honestly, when that round started, I spoke for 30 seconds. I kid you not. And I was legit, it was 3 minutes. And I was like, I spent the rest 2 minutes and 30 seconds doing I don't really know. It was literally 2 minutes and 30 seconds of complete silence. I spent 30 seconds. I was just like, okay, that's the plan, and then that's it. Going into final 6 and final 5, having 3 people safe, and then final 5 having 2 people safe. I was kind of like, well, damn, I'm screwed. But and so I was like, I wasn't like, ugh. I was kind of frustrated at that. Probably more frustrated because I wasn't the one safe either of those times, and so, but those kind of things would be like my issue.
Okay.
But if I was the one safe, I probably would be singing a different tune. I'll probably be like, yes, let's keep that, but I wasn't safe both times. And yeah.
I gotcha. My last question, and then Dylan and Chanel can ask any last ones. If you get invited back, are you playing again?
Sequester was such a dope experience. But I don't know. It was very emotional in the game, processing feelings in the game, outside of the game, and also just like the Twitter and social media and like you're in the public opinions on like YouTube or Reddit or Twitter. And so that was like more of the hard part with it. Because I'm not easily offended also, and like people seeing things on the show and saying like, okay, I didn't respect this, I didn't get why you did this, blah blah. But I just think the personal like attacks is what I have a hard time dealing with, and when it goes like outside of game, that's what. And so if I want to kind of endure that again, would you sign up for it in a way? But that was like the hardest part where I'm like, I don't know.
Anybody that comes for you and they don't have a profile picture or it's a cartoon or whatever, not worth it.
Stand accounts, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't right now. It was fun, and I had a blast in the game. It was very emotional, all that stuff. But
I actually do have a question. So you got to play with Jay West. If there was a different Sequester alumni that you could have had come back, who would it have been that you would like to play with?
Oh, that's a great question. Kimmy from season 1. I love watching her. Season 1 was like the production value wasn't like all the way up to par, but her personality was super funny.
Yes.
So I really, and like she was such a fun, like her confessionals were funny. She was a fun personality on the show, and I love her on Twitter. So she's probably one, and no one. Rachel from season 3, the mom who like smoked, and so she was super funny. And so she had me cracking up. And so I feel like those I like more humorous, more just like people like about how fun in the game. And so that's those two.
Okay. I will say one last thing. That I was wondering. So we saw this season that there was not a lot of downtime for you guys. Like you guys weren't like allowed to talk to each other and everything. Do you think that was like a big like hindrance on things for you, or like do you prefer more downtime or what?
Like downtime, as you're saying, like we had more downtime with ourselves because the only time we talked was during the rounds, and the rounds were probably like 10 minutes. And I think that kind of was it just immediately when you got back in the round, you immediately wanted to spit game and wanted to like make these moves because you were processing this probably for like hours. And then you have 10 minutes to talk to these people and you're like, okay, let me just execute right now. And so, and I feel like it hindered me getting to know, because I feel like one of my biggest things that I wish I would do, like just go back to, is I kind of looked over a lot of people. Like I looked over Natalie at the beginning. I looked over Josh. Honestly, I looked over Josh till I got eliminated. I didn't see like really any of him, and I looked over Billy. And so I feel like having that's Jacob Jones Shears one. Thank you, Josh. But I looked over these people that were playing like really masterful games that I didn't form a relationship with, that I wish I would have. And I think more time just like kicking with each other would have been better. But yeah, I think that in that aspect, I feel like downtime would have been, it would have worked in my favor if I got to like talk to people like Josh, because me and Josh had no rapport like in the game. And that's one of my biggest regrets, because I needed him. He was saved the final 5 and final 3. And it was like no relationship thing I can pull on to be like, okay, like, can we work this out? So I was damned. And I think that's one of my biggest regrets, is looking over the people that were cast off at the beginning, because I was just like, let me just, move forward with my people, and, I'll deal with them later. And so, but that's one of my biggest regrets, because they all made it to the end, and so, like, look at me. And so, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on. We had a fun time watching you, Jake.
Do you have any more questions?
Yeah. You guys all good?
I have one more question.
Go for it.
I'll try to make it quick. Okay, so I want to go back to the voting round because I just want to understand the Spencer game versus the Billy game. So I think it was pretty obvious, like Billy's game was kind of more of like a social game, ally kind of game, whatever. Spencer's game was like a lot more fighting and also kind of ally there. So when you say you saw Spencer's game more, is it more that you just were like, I just agreed with his gameplay more, or just like you just didn't really understand what Billy's gameplay was overall?
I think I just didn't really understand what Billy's gameplay overall, besides like the social aspect. And Spencer, how I viewed his game was completely, like socially at the beginning trash. I took my relationship with him into account when he legit tried to work with me numerous times, and I was like, nah, boy, like I'm good. And then we got voted in together, and so I saw the fluidity with that, and I also saw him maneuvering with Natalie and Josh, and so I saw the fluidity with that. And I oftentimes feel once you vote someone in an elimination, you give the power to them to make the decisions, and you give them all the control. And so, not saying that I would have pulled the people in that Spencer pulled in, but I think to any strategic ability that he did have, I feel like he tried to execute it when he had the power to do so himself. Taking Muna was my house. So I don't think I would ever drag Muna in at that time. But even Sharina, when I tried to be like, oh, Spencer, I don't think that's the move. And so I don't think I wouldn't have done that necessarily, but I still get his mindset, like they were coming after me and that. And so I feel like I saw Spencer's game in a more fluid manner than I just really didn't know what Billy's game was.
Okay. Well, I'm interesting even end off with him because we're going to be talking to him tomorrow for anyone who's watching.
Nice.
But yeah, Jacob, thank you. Like, honestly, thank you for coming over here. Like, Jem, seeing you, like, we met each other at the RJP class 2020 thing, and then now we're here.
Yeah.
So thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate y'all supporting. Y'all are all like dope people. And so I just appreciate y'all getting on here every week and just like, doing what y'all do. Even if y'all don't like certain people, don't like, certain game moves, I just still appreciate y'all support for certain y'all seem like dope people. And I appreciate. Wait, Dylan, you don't have a green? You typically have like a green screen or something like that up, don't you?
Oh, well, what's happening was that I was hosting a challenge before this and I'm still eating my dinner. So I don't have my setup downstairs yet.
Oh, wait, Dylan. Okay, I don't know why this was on my YouTube page at all.
Yeah.
But you were dressed in some white. It was some white something, and I didn't know. And so I don't think I watched it live. I think I just watched it on review. I don't know why this was on my YouTube. It was on my recommended, and I clicked it, and you were like talking, and I didn't know if it was a game was going on. But I was like, wait, what is happening? But I was doing work, and I just had the volume on because I like to hear people talk at work, and I was just like listening to you the entire time. Sometimes you were talking, but it was like very long, and it was just like the background for most of the parts. But I was like, what is that?
So what that was, you probably had on the stream where I was sending the announcements, like how on the minis they just have like the little thing. You should have had the other streams open because people were fighting there, but it's Game of Thrones. So I was Daenerys Targaryen, but instead Daenerys Targaryen. So that was why I was dressed up. But you should have seen the other ones because Chanel and Isaiah were in those. And
nice. Fun, epic.
Yeah, that was what that was.
That is so funny.
When I saw that, I was like, "What?" What is this? And I was like, "Wow!" And so, but yeah, I didn't see that. I just saw that specific thing. But yeah, thank y'all so much. Just really love that y'all show the show, and for people on the cast. And so y'all are super dope. And I just
no doubt. All right. Well, we'll stay in contact. Hopefully, we can get you on next season.
Yes,
chat with us. So
yeah, for sure.
But all right, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.